Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the place of the world where you are. Today, we have from the International Cooperative Alliance this gathering where the Gender Equality Committee of ASI wants women to show this leadership. And we are going to have this event that we have called Women in the Leadership for a Fair Transition. The objective of this event, as explained with everything in regards to COVID-19, shows the leadership of women. This is the leadership of women to respond efficiently and rebuild this world better. Women are in the first line of the crisis of COVID-19 as healthcare workers, caregivers, innovators, and community organizers. They're also among the most exemplary national leaders in the struggle against this pandemic. And this crisis has shone a spotlight on the importance of the contribution of women as well as the disproportionate burdens that we sometimes have to take. Based on this, during the seminar, we will share with the audience several examples of cooperating women in leadership during this entire process, with the objective of showing the important role of women and girls operators in different spheres and in the different stages of response and cooperation of this pandemic. We will have a very nurtured agenda. On the training about the importance and
del movimiento cooperativo han utilizado sus habilidades
movement have used their skills, their knowledge to lead the response and recovery of COVID. We will listen, first of all, after a short intervention that I will have, Professor Esther Giraud, the chair of the Research and Gender Committee of ICA Africa and director of the Institute of Cooperative Development at the Cooperative University of Kenya. Then we will have the presentation for America by Xiomara Nunez de Cespedes, vice chair of the ICA Gender Equality Committee, chair of the regional ICA-GEC for the Americas, and leader of the multiple service cooperative of professionals of nursing from the Dominican Republic. Then Dr. Nandini Assad, chair of the ICA Asia Pacific Women's Committee and president of the Working Women's Forum in India and the Indian Cooperative Network for Women, among many other positions with very much acknowledgement. And also we will have Stefania Marconi, Vice President of Cooperatives of Europe, Chair of its Gender Equality Working Group, and Head of International Relations for Liga Coop in Italy. Then we will have a second part where we will show perspectives of policies and sustainable development. Here we will have in this segment, we will invite the speakers to share with the participants what their organizations do or could do to support women in leadership and in the role of cooperative movement with said objective. We will learn how empowerment and leadership of women is and can be integrated to the formulation and implementation of policies and programs in the entire stages of response and recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic. In this segment, we will have 4 speakers of very high level. First of all, we will have Simele Sim, head of the Cooperatives Unit at the International Labor Organization. Then Ms. Camila Lundberg-Ney, Advocacy Coordinator at We Effect. Dr. Judith Hermanson, Director of the International Cooperative Research Group, and Wenyan Yang, a chief of Global Dialogue for Development Branch in the Division for Inclusive Social Development of the United Nations, TESA. And if everybody or everything works well, we will have a third question segment. As you see, we have a panel and wonderful speakers in this process of this first conference that we're giving from the International Cooperative Alliance on topics on women. Welcome, everyone. I will do a very short presentation in which I will show the experience that we have been developing from Comeva. And I will share a presentation that, as I was saying, will be very fast of what it has meant for Comeva. Wait, there. Of what it has meant for Comeva, having this experience of the creation and commissioning of a strategy that is called Mi Cooperativa. It's a cooperative with over 250,000 professionals of different areas, medicine, management, law. We have all of this university level sciences. We are a great community. And here we want to show you what we have implemented for this business group, cooperative business group, composed of 17 companies. It started in 1954 with close to 10,000 collaborators, and we are present in the 6 regions in Colombia. We provide well-being services, protection and solidarity, financial health, education, housing, entrepreneurship development, and we provide this to a general community of over 254,000 associates, comprised in 57% by women and in 43% by men. We have implemented a gender equality policy that is transversal to all the organization. And for this, we have used several tools. First of all, in the statutes or the internal bylaws of the cooperative, we invoke gender equality as one of the fundamental premises. Since 2013, we have formulated gender equality and equity policy, and we have implemented permanent strategies and actions to make the focus on equity transversal to all of the actions that we develop in Comeva and in our business group. A second strategy is to guarantee equal treatment and equal opportunities, both in the spaces of cooperative participation as well as in the products and services and in labor issues for this huge group of 10,000 collaborators that we have. And third, eliminate any form of violence or discrimination based on gender. The policy of gender equality in Comeva has 3 dimensions. Labor policy that consolidates a work environment and a relationships system based on equality and opportunities, acknowledging vital differences in capacities regardless of sex. Another dimension in products and services that ensures the offer of products and services of the companies of the Comeva business group adjusted to all the characteristics according to gender, and a management and participation policy that promotes active participation in decision-making bodies and the strengthening of individual and collective leadership. The actions to promote gender equality and equity in Comeva have generated benefits delivered by Comeva to women to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. We have had an impact on 49,732 associates in 2020, generating relief funds for over $7 million for this population. The programs for awareness, education, and communication in regards to gender equity have been focused on seeing and visualizing for all of the population and all the environments where we have an impact on in the country. with the intention of recognizing and valuing and respecting the differences between men and women, rejecting sexist stereotypes, and avoiding the use of symbols that perpetuate gender relationships based on denomination or subordination. These are some of the publicity pieces that we have developed where we show these actions that can be developed by both, like policies or politics and training, and how we can include ourselves in other economic sectors. The evaluation of the perception of gender equity in Comeva is done through a perception survey that is applied to our entire social base. The associates catalog Comeva as a cooperative with equity in 74% of the surveyed, and 84.4% consider that Comeva provides good treatment to men and women equally, and the associates feel that they have high awareness in regards to the needs of equality and opportunities in 95%. The drive of women participation in the cooperative, Comeva has developed a lot of campaigns as communication strategies and integration and business development that help promote gender equity and motivate the participation of women in this democratic and administrative exercise of the cooperative. And for this, we have created a website that is called Comeva en Equidad, where we have 66,094 visitors in 2020 in our webpage. You could also go into www.comeva.com/equidad, and you will find there how we develop absolutely everything related to this campaign. Also, we have an activity that is called Comeva Educates with a gender focus. It's the main educational strategy from Comeva that promotes female participation. In the past year, 64.4% of women who participated in the training program in leadership with a gender perspective, and 15,096 women participated in Comeva Educates. We have had a lot of events for reflection and acknowledgement, and we do an award ceremony that's for entrepreneur women, and we've had very active participation. We've been doing this since 2011, and we have had the possibility of having many women including and participating in this and strengthen their companies, and we have had 50.4% of women and 46.6% men in these categories of the award ceremony. And in 2020, 13,107 women participated in business training activities. As you can see, we have a huge campaign with the intention of generating awareness. And the Gender Equality Management System and the Labor Equity Stamp, which is a certification that was from the UN with the Ministry of Labor, and they have been giving this in several places. And in Colombia, out of the 17 businesses, 8 have already been certified at silver level, and they are getting ready for the gold level. And the others, from the 17, there's other 7 who are doing all of this work for the certification process. And we have an institutional commitment to apply this Equipare stamp within our organization, in the entire business group, and eliminate and help identify and eliminate any kind of inequality and barriers and gaps in labor in regards to gender. So as you can see, this has been a huge effort that we want to do with the intention of being able to participate and contribute with gender equity, not only within our organization, but also outside. And the implementation of products and services with a gender focus has been a great success, not only socially, but also financially and from the impact in our community. So thank you very much. I want to now hand the floor after this short presentation of this policy that I had to present as the president of the Gender Committee, showing you what we have done in this leadership. I want to hand the floor to Professor Esther Gicheru, Chair of the Research and Gender Committee of ICA Africa, and Director of the Institute of Cooperative Development at the Cooperative University in Kenya. So she can talk to us about her valuable experience in Africa. And you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm delighted to be in this forum to make a presentation of the African case. Yeah, so I want to share my screen. Yeah, so I want to share about the African case, and yeah, just like the topic is on women in leadership for a just transition. And I want to start by saying that the ICA Africa houses the ICA Africa Gender Equality Committee, whose mission is to ensure that gender equity is systematically considered in all cooperative policies and programs, working environment, work practices, also including monitoring and evaluation systems, and to establish the requisite structures, processes, and timeframes for achieving this. So we have some best case scenarios which I would like to share this afternoon. And the first one is the case of Awach Circles. And Awach Circles Limited is a saving and credit cooperative which was established in the year 2007 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And in this case, of the total 32 management positions, in addition, Awach Circles has women-only branch office. And in this branch office, the manager, the accountant, the auditor, the cashier, and the cleaner are all women. Moreover, out of the 13 branch offices, 6 of them are led by women. So this has been a very powerful case of women at work in leadership in this particular case of Awach Circles. Now, I would like to share another case, and this is a case of health partners in Uganda. It is known as the Elgon Community Health Cooperative. And in this cooperative, it is unique in its leadership because unlike in other cooperatives in the country, 4 of the 5 groups are led by women. There is MS Oliver Namataka, who is 50 years old. She's a mother of 10 with double twins. She's the chairperson of Bumwawule Group in the Elgon Community Health Cooperative Limited. A house-to-house approach was adopted up and downhill. And between March and June 2020, as the pandemic raged on, Oliver, with her colleagues, worked with 1 staff from Define Health Center and 2 cooperative leaders on a house-to-house effort that culminated in the mobilization of over 400 members who are currently enrolled in the health cooperative. We have also another case of we have another case of we call it the ODCO case, and this is for Moroccan women. The Moroccan women's cooperatives are a group that has demonstrated their capacity for resilience, perseverance, adaptation, and innovation during the pandemic period, particularly by they have showing cooperatives. And despite the supply, production, and marketing difficulties caused by the pandemic, women sewing cooperatives were able to thwart this difficult situation through the conversion of their daily activities while exploiting their know-how. Thus, they have engaged in the production of protective masks to contribute to the national effort to produce masks whose wearing has become mandatory. And to do so, they have refurbished their premises to obtain the necessary authorizations for the production of masks according to the standards in use. And more than that, cooperatives throughout the Kingdom of Morocco have been able to obtain the required authorizations. The other case that we have is the case of, we call it in short AMPCM case. And in this case, we have the Women Cooperative, which is based in Gaza province, in the Chokwe district of south of Mozambique. It is approximately 200 kilometers from Maputo city. The cooperative was founded in the year 2018, and currently it has 72 members. Of these members, 52 are women and 18 are men. The governing bodies is composed of women. Women and girls are being trained in cutting and sewing to make different clothes and produce cloth masks for the prevention of COVID. And they are supporting on gender-based violence prevention, also sexual and reproductive health, premature marriages, child prostitution, adult literacy, and chronic malnutrition as part of the seventh principle, the seventh cooperative principle, and all actions aimed at reducing the levels of vulnerability and contamination of the community by COVID-19. Then the other group that we have is a Kenyan case. It's a Cusco case. Cusco is our national body, the apex body for savings and credit cooperatives. And here we have a case of Women Leadership Network, bridging gaps during COVID-19 pandemic. And here we have women leaders in cooperatives in Kenya who are bridging gaps in accessing personal protective equipment for the less privileged while addressing gender balance in circle leadership. Under the auspices of the Global Women Leadership Network, and this is a platform dedicated to addressing gender balance in leadership. The women are helping impact on health regulations by the Ministry of Health. The network recently donated 4,000 face masks to Family Hope Center. This is a children's home in the outskirts of Kenya's capital, Nairobi, as part of an ongoing initiative to show concern for the community. And the Kenyan chapter of the Global Women Leadership Network is open to all women and men in the credit union movement, and active participation in its activities is strongly encouraged. The network provides women in the country with unlimited access to the network's international community of credit unions through in-person events and online. And currently there are 81 chapters of the Global Women Group, making Kenya's chapter the 82nd to join the network. In Africa, we have only Uganda and Malawi who have launched such chapters. The organization is supported by the World Council of Credit Unions, WOCU, which is a global trade association and development platform for credit unions. Now, in conclusion, we note here that women leadership is one of the major tools for empowering women, as it enables them to get economically empowered. Women are powerful agents of change, like we have seen in the groups that I have just presented, and the far-reaching benefits of diversity and gender parity in leadership and decision-making are increasingly recognized in the cooperative movement. And I want to thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Esther, for your presentation. It has been a great way to see all of the actions that have been developed in Africa to help support all of this related to COVID and the pandemic. I now hand the floor to Xiomara Núñez de Céspedes. She is a nurse. She is the vice president of the ICA Gender Equality Committee and chair of the regional ICA GEC for the Americas and leader of the Multiple Services Cooperative of Nursing Professionals in the Dominican Republic. Xiomara, the floor is yours. Good morning. For me, it's a pleasure to be in this forum that's very important this morning. We would have a lot of things to share on women leaders in America that have done great work in the middle of this pandemic, from Argentina to Bolivia, Uruguay, Paraguay. In all of these regions and countries, there have been women who have done their work and have been leaders amid a pandemic. But since I only have 7 minutes, I will share with you the experience from my cooperative of nursing professionals, Cooperative. I feel much pride in presenting an example of a women's cooperative that have been in front line, in the line of fire, like we call this in Dominican Republic, because these are women from the healthcare sector. This is a cooperative that is led by women, where there's 18,000 people, mainly 98% are women, from nurses, doctors, psychologists, dentists, nurse techs, and healthcare workers in general. So for us, it's a huge test when we talk about this pandemic, because additional from the deaths that we have suffered from our members due to contamination by COVID-19, we were also in a difficult position of providing services to people who were high risk for our collaborators and for us. This meant a huge challenge, and we had to take measures in regards to this pandemic. And one of the measures that we proposed and we achieved, the first one was to take care of the caregivers in a moment where everything was closed, where there was no way of having them access to supplies and money to pay for their needs. We were ready to provide this service. We did a contingency plan, a financial contingency plan, where we decided to give credit and advances on their savings through the lines that were planned online, and with a minimum of collaborators using a protocol that is very rigid to avoid contagion. And saying this in simple words, this meant the difference between extreme scarcity and viability of the things that they had pending to do as families and as people in this tragic moment that our nurses had to go through, and all of the healthcare workers. The pandemic made us see the vulnerability that exists in our region, like stress for long working hours, the divisions of the hospitals, um, that they had to organize to be able to help employees, um, because sometimes they had to be in 24 to 48-hour shifts in the hospitals to be able to help the people who had pre-existing conditions and that were separated from the service provider line. So this scarcity in biosafety materials, the increase in family violence at all levels, and combined with the horrible salaries and a digital gap that was seen strongly, where we couldn't even have access to the services that we offered because many of the nurses didn't have, or many of the people didn't have the online means to access to this. So this was a challenge for Cooperative that we had to face, from the staff headed by our manager, always willing to provide this kind of service and do anything possible to help these women and men that had this need. In this same way, we had to restructure schedules, create protocols for teleworking and the face-to-face service. We also had to draft a series of materials for the prevention and management of COVID to be distributed within our hospitals, where we have most of our associates. And continuing with an education program with a focus that is completely online and focused on the needs that came up at that moment. Focused on the development of training, on the care of the caregiver and the prevention of COVID and the biosafety norms so that they could have access to care during the pandemic. Psychology treatment for stress and prevention of family violence. These were things that we put in the first line to provide an appropriate and timely service to our associates. Undoubtedly, every crisis represents an opportunity. As I was saying, we are a cooperative of women that started 25 years ago with only $1 in assets. And nowadays we have over $52 million in assets. That group of women have made more women get empowered and improve their quality of life. For us in this pandemic, it has helped not only to cover financial needs in our associates, but also to improve their quality of life and to give them an option of work that is safer within their hospitals, to provide them with the tools for this work, and especially for them to feel safe that cooperativism is the way, the best way, and the most viable way to improve and to make their lives and their environments have a better quality and safety for all of them and their families. For me, it's showing the conditions in which we survive regardless to the pandemic. We increased our members and our assets even during the pandemic, but it has cost having improved and given the tools for everyone to stay stay on their feet during the pandemic. We want to give a big round of applause for all of the healthcare staff in Dominican Republic, for the way that they have done their job, and this has been historic. We can barely breathe because of this, but we thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much, Xiomara. It's very, very special, what the experience of the cooperative has been in these times of COVID, and what it has meant to take care of all the patients in the country. I now want to hand the floor to Dr. Nandini Assad. She is the chair of the ICA Asia Pacific Women's Committee and president of the Working Women's Forum in India, and of the Indian Cooperative Network for Women, among many other positions. So, Nandini, the floor is yours, so you can present your experience in your country.
In global sisterhood, good evening, namaste, like we in India say. In Asia, we faced the first pandemic, and our first recoveries have also come from Asia. There has been resilience. Of course, the Africans have beaten us to that. But the Indian Ayurveda and in Asia, the indigenous medicines have helped the resilience. As the chair of the Asia Pacific Committee and the president of the Working Women's Forum, that has 600,000 workers all over South India in 14 Indian Cooperative Network locations. I'm proud to say that the Asia Pacific Women's Committee is 23 years old, supported by the Japanese Consumer Cooperative Union, JCCU, a real good partner for gender equality. I would also like to confirm to all of you that the Indian Cooperative Network for Women has worked 365 days since last March, 24/7. We are not only 600,000 workers strong, we have given in our existence $5 billion and have about 2 billion infrastructure. We don't take money from outside. We are self-sustainable, mass, iconic women's cooperative. I would like to tell you, on behalf of my Vice Chairman Chitto Sarai from the JCCU and other women cooperators and leaders, that in some parts of Asia, like in Europe, the second wave may be beginning. So when you're talking about a just recovery, we are just starting to recover, and again, we have the scenario of in Europe, the third wave, and here in Asia, maybe the thing. So the Working Women's Forum and its credit arm, the Indian Cooperative Network for Women, are mass movements. As I showed you, we do mass demonstrations, we do mass strikes, and we are a feminist and a women's only cooperative. We are not like the mixed cooperatives in Asia Pacific, which have only 10% women on the boards. There are only 7% 10 years ago. So when you're talking about leadership, the leadership of women cannot be decided by men. And that is what happens in mixed cooperatives. When we are talking about a just recovery and a just leadership, this has to be ensured. And I am now getting very doubtful whether global international mixed networks of men and women can ably reach masses of women cooperatives like us. We are for women, of women, and our whole existence is based on a gender equitable cooperative system. And I am getting more and more confused, because what I've seen in the last 3 years, I'm one of the senior cooperatives in the globe who are on both the unions and senior positions. So therefore, I am there in the Raiffeisen, which is a very sensitive union. I am there in the ICA senior positions. And therefore, I want all of you to think of it that the patriarchy in these networks reflect a lot of what support we will get. Now, I would like to say that, as I said, we have given $5 billion and have a 97% recovery. The ICNW provides loans, insures, capacity builds, savings, apart from gender-based violence counseling. I think, and the pandemic, as the UN Secretary General said, more than the most important thing is the most important thing is the gender violence pandemic. It is worse than the other pandemic, and that is something that cooperatives must address. I find the word, when we use gender-based violence, that there is a lot of problem in the cooperatives. We do not even have sexual harassment committees. So therefore, in a pandemic, where will the woman cooperative member go? So these are things that we have addressed. We had helplines, we had our women members all the time go, and our women supervisors whenever a case of this, because people are in close proximity, people's incomes have gone down. So what I would like to really tell you is that the issues that we faced in Asia Pacific was mobility, transportation, food security, malnourishment. Most of the enterprises were, facing a lot of loss, and women sold their jewelry, women sold their assets to keep the nourishment going. So it was a very bad situation. As we work with poor women workers, we are mass. We are not small cooperatives, which are elite or English based. We hardly have any of those skills. Basically, the enterprises like dairy, fishers, vegetables, they were facing a lot of stigma. Nobody wanted to touch them. So even if they grew them. So the kitchen garden became a byword in Asia for nutrition and nourishment. But I think what helped India was the ancient science of Ayurveda, where you had several indigenous medicines that were very helpful in building the resilience of very poor women. And many people are saying that in many parts of Asia and Africa, that this has been the reason for the resilience. Now, what do you think is the gender-based violence, gender-based violence connected to patriarchy? Because I think apart from the suffering in terms of loss of livelihood, the second pandemic, agreeing with the UN Secretary General, is the gender violence pandemic. So one has to, in these cooperatives, all of them, we have to address this, because there are lockdowns coming up in many countries. So this needs to be addressed. We have to be more in preparedness. Now, I also want to say the third thing is you have to, like for example, we are doing a rollback now because we are expecting lockdowns and curfews soon. So how are the livelihoods? How are your preparedness? How are you going to do it? How are you going to help them with the savings? These are the issues you need to do, or they diversify their business, or they roll back, or they bring in many other women to do a group business so that minimize their losses. So I feel that livelihood, food security, gender-based violence, income, these are the issues that we need to address. Now, more than everything, what I'd like to tell you about Asia is that we have risen about the odds. We started it, and we have, our just recovery has begun. And even with this lockdown, we will sail through it, because our biggest strength is we are building self-reliance. And you know that Asia is now becoming the epicenter of the world, economic world. Soon it will, if this pandemic had not come. So in spite of our losses, we did not shut down our business or abandon our employees. We rebooted our business, and that is a unique characteristic of cooperative business. We adopted new strategies and actions, particularly digital technology. The Working Women's Forum, ICNW, along with the ICA Women's Committee, had the first digital financial literacy training of 65 at the height of the pandemic, because we found our women could not come and pay the loans or take their savings. So we taught them all sorts of apps in local language, which is spreading all over South India. We have a huge software unit of 60 people run by laborers, children of fishers. So therefore, the software revolution, along with technology for the poor women, it is something that we have been very much famous for, and it has helped us very well. So the Asia, and not only this, we have been helping with CSR activities in spite of the pandemic. We also supported our governments because we needed their help, and charities for the migrants. There was a big migration problem. Therefore, women in cooperatives in Asia and Pacific, their rich experience of meticulously managing households. Recently, the Indian Cooperative Network for Women had something called COVID Heroines. The women who came forward, nearly 1,500 to 2,000 of them, that even during the pandemic, they helped their cooperative survive. And over 35 years, they have paid every penny back from €2 starting loans. Today, they have €1,000 loans, and they've made engineers of their children. So this is the success of the model of the WWF and ICNW. And if you look at other countries like Japan, the JCCU's children's cafes, South Korea, Nepal, Myanmar, and Palestine, these have also shown the role of women cooperatives in the pandemic. Moving forward, in order to ensure a just recovery, I would like to advocate a few steps. One, patriarchal thinking has to be reversed. You can't have men deciding which women are on their board and which women are not. This is not the entertainment industry and Me Too. So you have to be very careful that while younger women have to be given place, so do older men. So both these things have to be done. We need to bring women in the center of decision making. We need to understand the challenges, especially men, on the multiple roles. As you know, in Asia Pacific, only 10% of women are on the mixed boards, not in like ICNW. All women CEOs, all board women, all supervised women, no men comes in, hardly no. And we don't have much English speaking because we don't need it. That is the international lingua franca, but we are talked about, business of gender equity. So by recognition, we mean that women need to have the power and authority to decide what is a just recovery. We at the grassroots mass organizations encourage our women at the local governance level, at the regional level, at the national level. We were very fortunate that the parliament for the first time made a movie on us, on women in cooperatives, particularly on me. I'm very grateful to the parliament and the honorable government. We need to promote all women discussion forums like the Asia Pacific Regional Webinar. We need to customize our interventions and understand ground realities. But for this, you must have gender disaggregated data. Where is the gender disaggregated data on the pandemic? The differential rate of infections by gender, are men getting it more or women, or is it nurses or entrepreneurs? Differential income impacts and incidents of domestic violence. So here you have a picture where you have the COVID heroines. These are women who started from nowhere. Today their children are expatriates. Today they have got 3 businesses and they don't have time to talk to us or to help other women, which we also not encourage. But we think it's important that they are true and good cooperators and business women. So the other issue is, what is the usefulness of preventive curative data, nutrition, livelihood, reproductive health. Now, talking about focus on social impact and economic response, we have to look at the financial liquidity systems. The financial systems liquidity, like we look at our own cooperative. We have to do rollbacks, we have to do rescheduling, we may have to sell our properties, we may have to mortgage, so many things which we are not doing now. But I'm saying that these are things we need to do. Then the last thing I would like to tell you is that, yes, let me just finish, I'll take 1 more minute. Now, what is the, finally, the impact of COVID-19 in Asia has been hitting hard. We are going to have the second wave, but we are getting very ready for it. So we must get the leaders, the male leaders, to include women in the response and recovery decision making at the local, municipal, or national level. I would urge global mixed networks which have women's units not to compromise on patriarchy. Thank you very much. From our 600,000 women, I am giving you their greetings and also the safety, and look forward that any other wave, we women will stand together, but we must oppose patriarchy. Thank you very much. Kind of you to have had me here.
Thank you very much, Nandini, for your special and very enthusiastic presentation, where you always show us what you're doing in India with everything related to COVID and gender equity and the disruption against patriarchy. Now we will hand the floor to Stefania Marconi. I have to mention that she has been the president of this committee of gender equity of the Alliance up to 2011. Nowadays, she is a vice president of the Cooperatives of Europe, the chair of its Gender Equality Working Group, and head of the international relations of Legacoop in Italy. I want to hand the floor now to Stefania for her to show us the cases in Europe with a lot of enthusiasm, also in the energy that characterizes her.
Pay, the gender gap, on the work-life balance, on entrepreneurship. We organize events and regular meetings. We work on the governance aspects. It is important to underline that the governance of Cooperative Europe, the board, is a fully, perfectly gender-balanced board. We collect policies and best practice. We have worked out a charter of commitments of the European cooperative movement that I will present later on. We participate in the ICA Gender Equality Committee and in other UN agencies events, networking with our members. And last but not least, we work, of course, at national level, and much work is done by our national members and the European sectoral cooperative organization. And we are very glad to share with all of you that we will participate in the G20 meetings, and we want to work together with the ICA Gender Equality on this aspect. I would like also to share with you some consideration on the impact of COVID-19 on women cooperators in Europe. Over 70% of operators are involved in social and health services, are women. Women and men cooperators do not stand back, but rather double their commitment and efforts to make fundamental contribution to local communities and countries. Women are the ones who risk paying the highest social cost. Blocked female employment is now over 60% in educational salaries, school production, in the cultural and tourism and leisure sector, where women cooperators represent over 50%, and the crisis is particularly effective. But we want also to tribute and homage to the other sectors where women are majority and they take the responsibilities without having the possibility to remote working from homes, for instance, in the retails, in the pharmacies, agriculture, kindergarten, cleaning service, and we really have to thank them for their work and effort during these difficult times. It is important also to underline that women as leader and member within COP had to adapt and transform their business while being particularly impacted by the crisis. And consequently, we ask that the measure should be taken to ensure this transformation is stable and not limited to the crisis. I would like to draw your attention also from the European perspective on the alert of increasing domestic violence. The other colleagues from the other region have underlined this shadow pandemic. And it is important also to make in evidence the efforts that cooperatives are doing to help women affected by violence. They take on also important resolutions, starting from the International Cooperative Alliance, of course, and then in the regions and the national organization, providing help services, advocacy, training, labor inclusion for women affected by violence. In the end, cooperatives try to do their utmost in collaboration with several stakeholders and institutions to give the possibility to women affected by violence to take their life and start to rebirth again. Another important issue that we have to take into consideration, and that is not acceptable that women will pay the recession. No to any she-cession, because we know that the COVID-19 has exacerbated some already existing strong gender inequalities, and it is not possible that women suffer also the impact. They risk to lose jobs, and they are losing jobs. They risk to lose income, and consequently it is much important and crucial that they not only take part in the conversation, but are sitting in the table where the measure and the policies for the recovery and resilience are taken on. And we know also how much this would increase also from the economic point of view. If we think about 2050, I make only one reference in terms of data. The gender equality improving could lead to an increase in the GDP per capita by 6% up to 9%, and an additional 10.5 million jobs could be created. Yes, please, the other slide. Our reference in Europe is the European institutions, and so it is important to share with the colleagues also what is the state of the play. In Europe, we have just over half the way to achieving the gender equality, with an overall score of 67.5% out of a possible 100. However, progress has been slow. There are considerable differences between member states, and gender gaps remain widespread. It is important to share with you also the measures that have been taken by the European Commission, launching a new EU gender equality strategy. There is a strong commitment by the European Parliament and the other institutions to promote a gender mainstreaming, as well as to fight against any form of violence, to support a green transition, to help women to face the digitalization challenges, as well as to be at the core of the recovery and the resilience facilities. Coming to our Charter of Commitments of the European Cooperators on Equality between Women and Men, as you will see, it is important, the decision approved by our General Assembly to take on these 10 commitments that you will see on the slide. They are all linked one to another. They are all linked to the Sustainable Development Goals number 5. And we have decided a path. For 2021, we will have chosen 3 of these 10 commitments, namely collect gender statistics, support women employment and cooperative entrepreneurship, promote work-life balance, diversity management in the top level position. And we are envisaging also a monitoring and accountability process, working together with our members, hoping to leave our gender equality footprint for the future generation of women and men cooperators in Europe. Please. Now I will share very briefly with you two examples coming from my country and another example coming from Spain. It is always very difficult to choose among the manifold best cases that we would like to share with all the colleagues within the ICA Gender Equality Committee. I focused on these 3 examples because they are quite interesting. The first one concerns a community cooperative called RICA. It is a women-led cooperative. The members are 9 young people. And this cooperative was born in 2018 to revitalize the town of Montemitro in the hinterland of Molise region. Molise region, it is a region in the southern part of Italy. And it is an interesting example because through this cooperative, with all the implication of the community cooperatives to revitalize also disadvantaged areas of the countries, these young cooperators were able also to help local population, especially older population, providing support and of course also free assistance service. We will see in this example a concrete application of some important principles and values that are the core of the cooperative movement, principle in action. The other example involved an important social cooperative. You know that in Italy we have relevant experiences on this method. In these cooperatives located in the northeast part of the country, it is involved in social, educational and health service for the elderly, children and people with disabilities. They have provided during the pandemic, beyond the work-life balance policies that are a must for these cooperatives, also counseling service for working. Okay, and I will go on. Providing support to women in difficulties, helping children and community, and supporting the psychological and workers. The other slide, please.
Ya se acabó el tiempo, Estefania.
Because we have another, yes. So, because we have this important Spanish workers' co-op example that I would like to share. In Spain, there is this interesting example of school cooperatives with 75 women members. Due to the closure of in-person classes and being schools with a dining room service, not to waste food, they organize soup kitchen attended by women cooperators. Important result that they attain: first, giving food to people in need, who were and are many, and second, not food waste. Collaboration with other ingos, just like Caritas and Red Cross, this soup kitchen are still operated. So these are concrete examples of how much cooperatives and leaders, women leadership can contribute in the recovery and the resilience, and in building a better world and more gender balance. Thank you so much for your attention.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
Okay, thank you very much, Estefania, for your participation, for sharing all of these successful experiences that have generated great impact. We are going to the second part of our event, which is on the perspective of policies and sustainable development. Here we are going to have the participation of 4 extraordinary women who have given us the opportunity of listening to them. The first one will be Simel Isim. Kind greetings to Simel. She's a very special person that I have known for many years, and I know her excellent trajectory. She is the director or the head of Cooperative's unit at the International Labor Organization. Without further ado, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias, Maria Eugenia. Greetings from the ILO and its cooperative unit. You may know the ILO is the UN agency responsible for decent work. It has a unit on cooperative, but it also has a branch on gender equality, inclusion, and diversity. It's a standard-setting institution with many conventions and recommendations on world of work issues like cooperatives, but also on non-discrimination at work, equal pay for equal value work, maternity protection, work-life balance, violence and harassment at work, which are coming very important at this time of the COVID. I would like to mention 4 areas ILO has identified as priority in the realm of gender equality in responding to COVID. First, the plight of essential workers. We've heard from our sister from Dominican Republic with the nurses cooperatives. Majority of frontline workers in health, social services, retail, education are women, and they are facing huge work burdens at this time, increased demand, health risks to themselves. So ILO policy measures, assessments are emphasizing occupational safety and health for these frontline workers, the importance of childcare services and support for paid time off or hiring new staff to relieve them out of the extensive hours. Then there is the other side, which is loss of jobs and decline in work hours, especially in accommodation, food services, tourism, real estate. And again, globally, women are the majority of workers in these sectors, and the employment loss and inactivity for women has been higher during the crisis across regions. And many of these women are in informal activities in these sectors, and they work day to day. So the loss of income has really meant severe poverty and malnutrition and hunger. So ILO is, of course, doing a range of initiatives targeting informal economy workers. I can maybe answer in the benefit of time in the Q&A if such a question comes. And the third area is, of course, mentioned by a number of our regional speakers, care responsibilities. Even before the crisis, they fell heavily on women. Before COVID, more than 2/3 of everyday care work of 16.4 billion hours of care work was done by women. During the pandemic, this has shot up. And women and men have seen their hours for unpaid work increase because schools and daycare closures and reductions in services and not having access to home care workers, etc. So there has been a great deal of research, policy advice, and project design around this care issue also from the ILO. The fourth one that our sister Nandini has mentioned is the shadow pandemic, that of gender-based violence, which has skyrocketed during this period because social isolation meant being cut out from work, school, family, friends, and many locked inside with people that they may fear, have not been able to call. So there's also exacerbating factors like financial pressure, anxiety, the shadow pandemic, I would say, of course, there's revised methods needed to be undertaken in this regard during the pandemic, but I would say across the board, ILO has adopted a convention on violence and harassment in 2019. And COVID has shown the urgency of adopting this convention and implementing it through policy and program. Only 4 countries have adopted it so far, ratified it: Argentina, Fiji, Namibia, and Uruguay. We need really pressure from all of us in our countries to move this forward. So what have we done during this period as ILO COP? We are small, but we are strong. We punch above our weight usually, and we are 101 years old. In a number of countries, we've adapted activities to provide direct financial and technical support to co-ops, especially in rural and informal economies, where women-led co-ops. We've adopted some of our tools for online use that were used actually during the period of COVID. In Tunisia, we have launched actually a project to support COVID-affected co-op and solidarity economy organizations led by women. It has just started focusing on improving workplace protection and working conditions of women and women entrepreneurs in women-led co-ops and SSE organizations. To be able to counteract the effects of COVID. We've supported our colleagues in the field to adapt the delivery. Of course, we all had to adapt on delivering our work. And so how could co-op components of projects like on child labor or forced displacement, refugees could be adopted? We've been undertaking always in these projects co-op needs assessments, and we always had a gender dimension to that. Now we have a COVID component to that. We've also been engaging, for instance, with transgender community leaders in Indonesia who want to set up cooperatives because of discrimination. They have not been able to access health services even before COVID, and now they have even become more vulnerable. So our engagement includes training sessions, setting up dialogue with other transgender cooperative experiences, and pilot initiatives to start their cooperatives. We've been documenting, of course, experiences from partner cooperatives, highlighting these and showing where especially women are majority of leaders, members. We've done videos, solidarity messages always, with highlighting the voices of women leaders in cooperatives. We've emphasized the importance of health cooperatives for preparedness in future pandemics and also underlining their experiences in COVID response. We've called for governments to include cooperatives in their relief packages and not only considering them as social actors for immediate crisis response, but as long-term economic and social actors that can help improve resilience of their communities. We've done gender-specific webinars. Some of the great colleagues here have contributed to those. And we emphasize, and I would like to say a few of them here, operationalizing the ICA Declaration on Decent Work and Against Harassment that was adopted in 2018 would be a great step. And I know the Gender Equality Committee of ICA has this on their radar. We want to emphasize proper valuation of women's work in essential services and ensuring equal pay for equal value work. This is especially important for social cooperatives and cooperatives where women are in majority in sectors like education and care services. And proactive measures to increase the participation and representation of women in decision-making bodies. While co-ops may be doing better than their non-co-op counterparts on women leadership, it's not an even performance across sectors. Yes, in social sectors, women are majority across founders, members, users, leaders. But when it comes to agriculture, even women may be majority of contributing family workers. They're a minority in membership and very few in leadership rank due to how household leadership is understood and ownership patterns around land and property. But it's very important for women leaders in the co-op movement to call attention to this and support actions to be taken. Retail cooperatives, similarly, maybe better than agriculture, but again, women in leadership ranks are fewer than founders and members and workers. So in addition to proactive measures for leadership of women. We also want to alleviate, of course, the impediments to their rise in the ranks. And this includes acknowledging care needs and ensuring workplaces are free from violence and recognizing the value of frontline work. I will stop here. I know time is limited. I will continue in the chat and through the discussion. Thank you, and back to you, Maria Eugenia.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, seeing all of this experience of what the International Labor Organization is doing is wonderful, and all of this advocacy action done from the cooperatives and in gender equity that you have led. So now we are going to hand the floor to Camilla Lundberg-Ney, the advocacy coordinator at We Effect. Welcome, Camilla. We've known each other for several years as well, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you for the invitation and opportunity to participate at this ICA event here today at CSW. I've really enjoyed the previous presentation, so thank you to all of you. As it was said in the opening remarks Monday, this pandemic has been the most direct discriminatory crisis the world has ever seen. At the same time, we also have to deal with other ongoing crises, such as the climate crisis, the hunger crisis, and the increase of violence against women and girls. We know that a majority of people living in poverty are women,